Guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I will be talking about the difference between delivering at a public hospital versus delivering at a private hospital. So I hope this video will help anybody that's trying to make up their mind, like an expecting mom or a family member that knows someone, or have a friend that's trying to make up their mind whether they want to deliver at a public hospital or they want to deliver at a private hospital in Jamaica. So stick around and I will head into the video and give you the details. So the top hospitals that I was considering was UWI, Nuttall, Andrews, and there's this other hospital in Manchester that's called Hargreaves. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, if it's Hargreaves or Hargreaves, whichever one. But that is a hospital in Manchester that I really liked because it's a private hospital and they do the way how they do their stuff, it's based off packages. So you can say, okay, you want the gold package, the silver package, or the bronze package, and that would be the type of delivery or this whatever they would charge you. So if you are going to a private doctor, not a clinic or anything, like a personal private doctor, that doctor would normally say which hospitals they are allowed to deliver at, because each doctor has their different hospitals that they can deliver at. So my doctor at the time could only deliver at Nuttall and Andrews, so I had to choose between the two of them which hospital I wanted to go. So in the end, I ended up choosing none of the above, but I went to a public hospital instead. Even though I was going to a private doctor, I decided to go to a public hospital at the end of it. So I'm going to talk about some of the pros or cons. I don't know what you want to call it, but what are some of the things to consider if you decide to go to a private hospital first? So with the private hospital, there is a deposit fee. And as well as the private hospital, if you're going to use your doctor, your personal doctor that has been monitoring your pregnancy, then there is a doctor fee separate and apart from the fee that you're going to pay at the hospital for deposit. So for my doctor, my deposit was 300,000. So it started off, the doctor fee is 120,000. That is a set fee. You cannot that's not refundable, because that is what you're paying the doctor. So the 120,000, that is a set fee, but out of the 300,000 they minus the 120, and then the difference now is you can get that back if your bill doesn't come up to so much. So that is just something, they just give you that budget to work with, but that's a deposit, and if all of it is not used up, they will refund you some of it, but you don't get back that 120,000. Each hospital has a different deposit. So for example, Andrew's deposit for regular birth, not C-section, but just like a regular birth, their deposit was about 55,000 if I remember correctly, and UWI was about 30,000 and Nuttall was about 70,000. So those hospitals do offer private rooms. Well, they did. UWI doesn't have any private rooms currently, so I don't know if that was just because of COVID or it's just a change that they're gonna be making going forward. So you have to pay your deposit, and then after you have the baby there, then they would give you your final bill. So your insurance can cover some of it, but some hospitals do require that you pay upfront and then you recover the money you claim back the money from the insurance company. So you have to go in and pay your deposit. So you have to register by for you have to register by a certain amount of weeks so that at least they can have your spot secured. Not every hospital has the same requirements, so it all depends on which one you really choose to go to. What I liked the most is that if you do choose to go private, at least it's the same doctor that has been monitoring you, throughout the whole pregnancy. Like, it's that same doctor that would be doing the delivery, so at least, they would know you by a certain time. By They would know you well and would know what you can manage, know what you can't manage, and so forth. So I really like the fact that you could carry your own private doctor to deliver the baby. But if you can't, you can even use the private hospital's doctor to do the delivery, and then they would bill you for using their doctor. What I also liked is that at the private hospital, you have the option to say if you want to get epidural, because at the public hospital there's no epidural. They don't offer epidural there, but the lowest cost I've ever heard for epidural is probably like $80,000. So if you know that you definitely can't manage pain, I would suggest a private hospital, because at least then you can get epidural there, but you cannot get that at the public hospital. So with the private hospital, you get your own personal room, but with the public hospital, it's no personal room. Everybody is in the open. You share your space. The only thing is that if you want a little privacy, for the public hospital, you can draw the curtain around yourself and your baby to get the personal space that you want. The the main reason why I was really considering going private was that I wanted someone to be in the room with me, to go through the whole process. So I was saying I wanted my partner there with me through the whole delivery. However, COVID came and all of those plans went through the door. So I really sat down and I thought, like, is it really worth it delivering at a private hospital when it doesn't really matter to me where I have the baby, as long as she is healthy and safe? Because at the end of the day, people always tell me that if anything should happen, they're gonna rush you right back to Jubilee. And Jubilee, is the public hospital that is where they do majority of anything in regards to delivering a baby, any emergencies. That's right where they're gonna refer you. So I really thought about it and I said, if I go to a private hospital and anything goes wrong, that's where they're gonna send me. So during COVID, I really thought about it, because I was saying, do I really want to go to a private hospital, have baby there, and then we'll have the bills to deal with, versus I can go to a public hospital, have the baby there, and then just walk out with me and my baby quite fine, no bills over our head. So in the end, I decided to go to a public hospital because I had Nevea at Spanish Town Hospital, and quite honestly, I didn't have a bad experience there. The experience was quite fine. The only thing that I tell people are always scared about Spanish Town Hospital, but the thing is that Spanish Town Hospital has a maternity ward at the back, or like the side, I don't know what you call that, has a different entrance. So you come through Spanish Town Hospital, but at the same time, maternity section has their own entrance. So it's not like you're gonna be dealing with any and everybody to be seeing all the trauma people coming in and the blood and who have gunshot and all that. No, you don't see all of that coming in, because you are in your own little section in the maternity section, so you don't see none of that. So it's quite peaceful and calm around there. Everybody has a different experience at a public hospital, but as I said, mine was quite fine. The only thing that made me uncomfortable was when I just went to the hospital, and the first nurse that was dealing with me, she was a little rough, but like me personally, I don't like when anybody rough me. I am not a fan of that, because I'm very soft in certain way, and I don't feel like, I always say to myself, I deal with persons how I want them to treat me. So I'm always like try to be nice or cordial or whatever it is, just to say that I'm not being rude in any way or so forth. So I don't expect people to treat me like that. That's just how I am. So when I'm faced with that, it kind of throws me off a bit. So the first nurse that I was dealing with, she was a little rough. She was roughing with everything. Just like, mommy go here, mommy go this. And I'm like, I am a bit panicky. I don't know what to do. I'm uh, I'm having I know Neve is on her way. I'm feeling a little pain. I'm uncomfortable. I'm scared. It's me alone because remember public hospital, nobody can come into the room with you or come into the hospital with you. They just drop you off and they leave. So it was a bit scary to be there, doing all of that by myself because that's one of the things why I really was looking towards private because I was saying I could have one person in the hospital with me in my room and they could at least help me out with certain stuff and would help to calm me down. So I was thinking either my partner would be a good option or my mom, but if he would be able to come, mommy would be the second option. So at the public hospital it was just me there and the nurse was rough and she was like, especially when she was trying to see how dilated I was and she pushed her finger and all that, I was so uncomfortable and in pain. At one point, I was just like, oh my gosh, no, I can't deal with this. I just started crying because of how rough she was dealing with me at first. And then, not rough to say that she was dealing with me physically rough, but how she was speaking to me, I wasn't comfortable with it. So at one point, she realized I was crying and she stopped and she was like, Mommy, what happened to you? Are you okay? And I was like, no, I don't like how you're dealing with me. You're making me very uncomfortable and I'm scared through the whole of this. And then after I spoke to her about how she was dealing with me, her countenance and everything changed. It was a whole another nurse I was dealing with. I mean, she calmed down completely and she started talking to me nice and she was like, all right, just relax a bit. And then after that I calmed down because the thing is that when you're going through all that, you don't want to be worked up. You need to be as comfortable and in the right frame of mind as can be because you don't want to put any additional stress on the baby at that specific time. So I really appreciated the fact that she toned down a bit and relaxed because that was making me very tense and uncomfortable. But in regards to the other nurses and everybody was pleasant. That's one thing. Everybody was quite fine. You're gonna meet different type of people, different type of personality. So I just adjusted to each doctor and each nurse. I called them whenever I was coming and when I got induced, every second I was bawling out, nurse, nurse, and they kept coming to me. They were as kind as they could be. And then at one point they just gave up and they were like, Mommy, if you call me again, we're not coming. And that's because pain was hitting me. When pain is hitting you, you're not thinking. You're just crying, you're not thinking. So that is quite understandable because they had other persons attending to. So I had no bad experience with the public hospital. They went out of their way to make me as comfortable as can be, as far as in my books. Even when even when I was pushing and Nevea, the card was wrapped around Nevea's neck, and I remember one of the nurses came, and she was helping me out, and she gave me her hand to hold, and I felt so relieved when she gave me her hand because I'm telling you, I squeezed her hand so much. Oh my gosh, that's something. I will always remember that nurse. Like, there's some persons that you'll meet at the hospital and you'll never forget them. Some of those persons are like, the person beside your hospital bed. Because when I had Nevea, when I wanted to go to the bathroom, and so I had to ask the the next lady beside me in her bed. She was a young person as well. I asked her to watch my baby for me when she's going to the bathroom. I would watch her baby, vice versa, or I would leave Nefea with one of the nurses. Because once I had Nefea, I had her straight through the whole time. I didn't have to leave her in any nursery. They watched her and then they decided that they're not going to send her to the nursery. So I kept her the whole time. But other than that, I just kept her beside me and they would come and, check on her and check on me, see if she's breastfeeding. That's one thing. The public hospitals, they stretch the fact about breastfeeding, they stress it a lot. They enforce it. They're like, Mommy, breastfeed, breastfeed, breastfeed. But when they realized Nefea wasn't latching, they gave me formula. This is the thing to try her. This Enfamil formula to try her with. But they really take breastfeeding very seriously. But Um, that's about it. Just to know that for the public hospital, you have to carry everything. Everything that you and the baby is gonna need, you need to take it as well. Just walk with some little, snacks or some little food or whatever it is until someone can take food for you, because I was not a big fan of the food, but it can be eaten. And I'm not saying the food cannot be eaten, but it's not the best of the best. So if you can carry food or snacks or little stuff to go and munch on, I would highly suggest that. But other than those stuff, the place was clean. That's the first thing. The maternity ward was very clean, because when it comes on to babies and so forth, they're easily able to pick up germs and get sick, whatever it is in the ear and so forth. So I definitely noticed that someone would always be there to clean up if anything should happen. So that's a plus. I think whether public or private hospital, they're going to make sure that that is a clean environment in place for a baby to be, because you can't take any chances with a little newborn baby. So that was a good thing. In comparing Jubilee to Spanish Town, I don't really know Jubilee or know what it's like there. So, I'm definitely going to recommend Spanish Town to anybody that wants to go to a public hospital, because with COVID in place currently, the thing is that you cannot carry anybody in with you. It's just that you are only allowed to have one guest for the day. I don't know what are the rules now for the private hospitals, but in regards to the public, it is one guest per day. So that's all because of COVID. But in the past, you could have any amount of persons once it's within the designated visiting hours. The persons could come and visit you, but that's no more due to COVID taking over. But hopefully it clears up soon, and you can have back your regular guests. But the thing is that you're not spending that. You don't go to the hospital to live. It's just to have your baby and come out. So it's not a case where you have to think to say, you definitely want somebody around you, because as soon as you have your baby, once it's not a C-section and you and the baby are healthy and okay, and the doctors check you and they monitor you for some amount of time, they will send you home. I did not spend no long time in the hospital after I had Nevea. So that was something that I was extremely grateful for, because I really wanted to go home with my baby. I think I've covered as much as I can remember. If I have left out anything, I will make a second video just to touch upon a few areas for stuff that I had overlooked or missed. But feel free to leave your comments or what your experience has been like at either public or private hospital down in the comment section below. Alright guys, thank you for sticking through another video, for those persons who actually stayed and listened to the whole of this, because this was a very long video.